Hello, welcome. I'm so glad everyone is here. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time zone you are in. I have an amazing lineup with me today. Sean Hulbert is with us. He is going to be our presenter for today. We'll be talking a bit about using BIM 360 design on infrastructure projects. And so I think he's going to focus on clash detection and markups a bit. And then we also have Adam Riley, and Adam is going to be helping us in the background answer some questions so that we try to get through all of them live. With the increase in the number of people that have been attending, we have definitely had more questions than we've had time to answer. So I'm so glad that you're here with us, Adam. Thank you for joining. All right.
You're welcome.
You bet. All right. So I'm going to give everyone just a few minutes to get logged in and get their audio working. So while we are waiting, I would love to hear from you. Where are you joining us from? So open up that Q&A panel and type in there where you're coming in from, and I'll just shout out to everyone, or as many as I can get through anyway. So we've got David from Pennsylvania, Mark from Ohio, Jamie from Wisconsin, Mike from Illinois, Raiders from Orlando. Oh, now it's going quickly here. Let me slow it down. Let's see, Dennis from Vancouver, great. Juan from Minnesota. Abarna, I believe might be how you say it, is from Toronto. Nice to have you with us. Scott from Tennessee, Jacob from New York, Brittany from New Orleans. Oh, fun. And let's see, let's jump down a little. Kevin from Toronto. We've got Paul from Montreal. Nice to have you with us. Sabu from New York. I hope that's how you say your name. I apologize if I do say your name wrong. With so many people coming in from all over the world, I know that I am not very good at some of the names from overseas, so I do apologize. Kife from Maryland, nice to have you. Howard from California. Marco from California, excellent. All right, it looks like our numbers are starting to steady out now. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in and get started. And while I do that, we can let everyone finish getting signed in. We do have a little bit more orders of business today, just because we are going to be voting today on our lightning round topics for Autodesk University, the meetup that will happen in conjunction with that. So let's start off with our safe harbor statement, just reminding everyone if we do make forward facing statements, please do not make any purchasing decisions based on that. We try to give you as much information as possible and be as transparent as possible, but it's not always a promise that it'll end up in the software or connected. So just a little bit of, forewarning there. As a reminder, your line is muted to reduce the background noise. And this is because we are recording the session. We do still encourage a lot of questions, so please type those questions in the Q&A panel, or if you are more comfortable, go ahead and raise your hand in that attendee panel, and we can open your line up for a live question to Sean. So always excited to see a lot of participation. Again, we do have lightning rounds that are happening at Autodesk University. As many of you know, Autodesk University is free this year because it's completely online. Everyone can attend, and we are excited to be able to have your peers actually come and present. So I've had these topics suggested from people that have attended these meetups, and I would love to hear from you which ones are of most interest to you. And so just remember, these are going to be 5-minute talks with 5 minutes of Q&A, and hopefully it'll be really quick paced and keep you interested the whole time, and especially if it's going to be a topic that you are interested in. So the top 3 topics are going to be the ones that we have at the AU session. I'm going to go ahead and open up the polls. Give me 1 second. And let me launch that. All right, hopefully you're seeing that. Please let me know, Sean, if they're not.
This looks like it's Revit heavy.
It is a little bit Revit heavy. However, this being a BIM manager session, we do want to know, what interests you. Do we have more Revit people on the line? Do we have more civil folks? I don't know. But that first one, I do want to tell you a little bit about that one. It's all about social engineering for BIM managers. That one is intended to help you get your team on your side. So I know that as a BIM manager, it's a little bit difficult to get people to really adopt the software that you're trying to get them to adopt. And so that social engineering piece for BIM managers is all about persuading your team to work with you rather than against you. So I thought it was a great topic. It could be really exciting to see what people have to say. That last piece, and those three middle ones, they definitely are more Revit focused. So if you do use a lot more Revit in your firm, it might be perfect for you. But that last one is a lot more general as well, work sharing from anywhere. And this one has a lot more to do with, the bind that we found ourselves in these last few months with COVID, forcing us to work remotely. There have been a lot of firms that have had to adjust. And so, we definitely want to see what you think, if that's still a topic that you'd like to hear about in November. Okay, I'm going to give you just 30 more seconds to vote. And let me just go see how we're doing on the voting. It looks like 62% of you have voted, so 30 seconds to go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so it looks like 73% of you voted. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and I'll share those results with you so that you can see those. Okay, so it looks like we have three defined topics pretty easily. That's social engineering for BIM managers, setting up company family templates, how and why you might do that, and the work sharing. So excellent. I'm excited. These are going to be your topics for AU. And what I will do now is reach out to those people who have submitted those topics and schedule some time with all of you to get some practice rounds in. So we'll practice at least 3 times. We'll give you time to get the presentation set up in August, and then we'll have a practice session in September and a couple in October, just so that we make sure we're 100% ready. So great, I'm so glad that we had that time to do that. All right, so let me go ahead and stop sharing the poll so that I can turn over rights to Sean. So Sean, do you want to start introducing the topic at hand while I give you rights?
Absolutely. So today what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick review on some of the requirements that you'll need to have in place before we start to leverage our model coordination activities in BIM 360. We'll also talk about, let's see here, do I have that set up correctly? I will show my screen. And forgive me, I've got a little bit of a hiccup going on behind the scenes here. Give me 2 seconds to fix this. So again, we're going to review the requirements for setting up a Civil 3D specifically project inside BIM 360. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the objects that we can leverage, or some of the objects that we can leverage for our model coordination activities. And then we want to prepare our objects for those activities and get them moved over to the plans folder inside BIM 360. We've already seen that once today. So what we do here, just to give you a quick understanding of what's going on, just high level here real quick, is we're leveraging Desktop Connector to be the traffic cop between BIM 360 and Civil 3D. And it's a humbling amount of activities that are going on behind the scenes when we actually see the process that we're undertaking to make sure all of your data shortcuts, all of your external references, as well as any of the other objects that are connected to your drawings are moved over correctly. So it does seem like a simple process on the surface, and I think that was intended. But I do want to let you know that there is a lot of information or a lot of activities going on behind the scenes when we're leveraging these tools. Now, today we're going to focus more on the actual BIM 360 environment. So we're going to jump over into the web browser and we're going to look at some drawings that I've already uploaded there. But we will jump over into Civil 3D if we need to, or if any questions arise that require us to look at those individual elements. One thing we'll want to talk about is as we are preparing our objects to leverage inside model coordination, it's important to understand what the individual objects that can be clashed are and how we need to prepare those, like I previously stated. And so I do want to let you know that for the best experience for Civil 3D or for collaboration for Civil 3D, you really need to make sure that you're on the newest version of Civil 3D. And so that's 2020.4 or 2021.0.2. And forgive me for not including that on this slide. You also really need to make sure that the version of Desktop Connector you're using is the version of Desktop Connector that's intended to run with your version of Civil 3D. We've seen some situations where customers have run into challenges where their files were not behaving properly, and what we were able to identify is that the Desktop Connector version was newer than the version of Civil 3D that they were using, or vice versa. So it's one of those scenarios that you just want to keep your eyes on to make sure that you do have the best experience possible. And remember that you do need to have an invitation to a project for collaboration for Civil. You must have that BIM 360 design entitlement. And then we do recommend a fairly robust internet connection because it is a lot of information that can be moved back and forth through BIM 360. However, once you get your files open, you are working locally for the most part, or absolutely, and those files actually run a lot faster than even in some server scenarios. So let's go ahead and jump over into the BIM 360 browser and let's look at the information that we've uploaded. So some of this data should look familiar. It's a lot of the same data sets that I've been working with previously. And it's been up there for a minute, so you can see that we have all of our wonderful related data folders up there. And one of the things that I like to recommend, I'll take a slight tangent here, is that when we're working with the related data folders in Civil 3D, the best and easiest way to deal with that is, number one, I like to make sure that if I've uploaded data that it's not already in BIM 360, I can go ahead and move that to where it belongs. But number two, I like this trash can button here. It really takes care of those related data folders for us in a quick and easy fashion. So while they are slightly annoying and it does create a little bit of a hiccup as we're uploading information into BIM 360, they are easily handled. Now, one caveat that I need to make here today is that I am, and the great thing, oops, let me get this set on the correct project. I'm actually running the beta versions of the 2 updates that are scheduled to be released here very soon for Desktop Connector and BIM 360. So I just want to let you know to keep your eyes open for that because that information will be available soon. And what you'll see is that we've actually corrected a few of the deltas that have been present. They're not necessarily bugs in the products, they're just tools that were available to BIM 360 or to Civil 3D users in a server environment that were not necessarily ready for the BIM 360 environment. A couple of those things that we're hoping to get taken care of are the sheet set manager, the DST files. So we'll keep our eyes open for that. Now I'm going to jump over into here real quick and I want to get a drawing open for us because we will want to talk about preparing our corridor elements to be exported into BIM 360 for clash detection. And I'm talking and not selecting the right files. Pardon me for 1 second. Do we have any questions yet? Oh, how often is Desktop Connector updated? Oh, we've already got an answer. And generally you'll see a major release come out at least once a month for the most part. And the Civil team is working, I'm going to say absolutely hand in hand on making sure that the experience that the users are having is improving. We did have a bit of a hiccup previously, but that was resolved immediately. So it was a shout out to the development team for getting those situations taken care of as soon as they're happening.
Sean,
So
we do have a question about licensing. Does every user that's going to be using BIM 360 require a license or seat?
So let me rephrase the question and kind of re-ask that question right now. If we're talking about leveraging BIM 360, just the BIM 360 environment, then the user would require the entitlement to BIM 360. If the user is asking if they want to collaborate inside BIM 360 with Civil 3D, then yes, they would need the entitlement for both. Sorry about that. I had a question from the family here. Everybody's working from home still, I assume, or most of us are. So did that answer our question? Was that you, Adam?
I
I'm
believe
sorry.
it did.
Okay, perfect. And it looks like I'm having a little bit of fun here with an MMS file. And that's, one of those questions I think maybe we should even prepare a poll for at some point in time. What is the impact of MMS files to our users? Is it something that causes our customers a lot of pain? Is it something that we've learned to work around? Yeah, I get a variety of answers when it comes to that. And just to back up a little bit, I know that this is a BIM focused conversation and I'm focusing a little bit on civil, and that's because we actually missed my presentation due to my misunderstanding that I was presenting that day. So again, I apologize, but I do want to make sure that I understand if you've come to the point where we're really not leveraging those anymore, then that'd be good to hear. If we are still leveraging that, or if we're still allowing them to be created, I guess is the best way to say it, that would also be helpful to understand, because we are looking at what the next steps for MMS files are here internally. And what happens is when a surface gets too large, if you don't know, the Civil 3D creates an external file, the .mms file, that is then needed to go with your Civil 3D drawing. Now we have a quick and easy workflow that helps you leverage that in BIM 360, but that is one of those deltas that I'll say our customers ran into when they were first trying to adopt BIM 360. And so let's jump back over into our environment and let's just go ahead and look at some of the drawings that I've uploaded and talk about what we need to do to prepare those for leveraging in model coordination. So you'll see here that we've just created a simple corridor drawing. And why we jump into this corridor, ooh, that's not a great experience. Refresh here. While we're waiting for that to happen, let's go check on the status of my drawings here.
And while you're checking on that, I will just bring up a question. We already have an answer for it, but I want to bring it up to everyone. So the question was asked, does everyone need a license for the project? And the specifically asked, can they use the BIM manager's firm license, or do they have to bring their own? The question is, yes, you can bring your own, or you can use a license from that BIM manager's firm, but you always do need a license one way or the other.
Let's see if that drawing is going to open up for us here. That is not a positive experience. My apologies, everyone. Let me see what's going on. And we're still hung up waiting for that MMS file to do its thing. Okay, so let me do this a different way. Let's go ahead and just reopen this drawing. And there it is, creating the related data folders for us again. And maybe I got a little overzealous deleting those before BIM 360 got done doing its thing. It's all worked a few minutes ago. So let's go ahead and restore a previous version because I'm pretty sure that will work for us. So again, here's another example of some things that you might run into. This should give us the ability to go ahead and take a peek at this drawing and look at how I've prepared the corridor to be leveraged inside BIM 360. Let's see if it's going to open up for us now. Or did I just do alignment and talk and not pay attention? There we go. Okay, so there we go. We've got our wonderful waterfall. I'm thinking that all of our civil users have seen the waterfall before. If we haven't, what you're dealing with here in the waterfall is the profile is not as, or the profile goes longer than the, alignment goes longer than the profile. And we've got the corridor going all the way to the alignment. Let me spit that out quickly. And let's wait for this guy to go ahead and get updated. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice here is this actually was some information that was brought over from Infoworks. So it's a fairly simple corridor, but the process that we're going to leverage for this applies, the process we're going to go through here applies whether it's a very complex corridor or if it's a very simple corridor. And I'm going to go ahead and stop my camera because it might be contributing to my delay here. Trying to get too many things done on the internet with other people at home doing the same thing. Okay, that seems to work a lot better. So what you're going to see here is just that simple corridor. And again, just to be honest, what it is it's that Civil 3D or that Infoworks corridor exported to Civil 3D. But you're going to notice as I come in here that we've got those individual elements of the corridor. And so one of the things I'll let you know is that, when in my career, one of the challenges that I ran into as a civil engineer was always determining whether or not my piping was in the subbase of my road. And it was a very monotonous task. It was very frustrating to have to go through that process every time somebody made a change. And then, we got to the habits of just, setting some minimums. And then obviously, if you're working in some, rehabilitated areas, or you're working in some existing conditions, you can't always go with your minimums. So there we are again, back to square one and having to go and do our clash detection manually with our subsurface. So that's where one of the advantages comes in. If we actually export those individual solids inside Civil 3D, we can clash with the individual elements of the subbase. Now we can obviously clash with the surface as well. And that's a good thing for us to realize is if we're trying to lay some pipe out in an open field environment or something, some area that we weren't anticipating doing grading, this is going to give us an idea on whether or not, even if we're running a profile through there, we all know that, just a couple feet left or right of any profile could have some significant grade change. So that's going to help us see anywhere where we're even getting close. So we're running that, that buffered clash detection as well. So let me go ahead and jump back out of this drawing. And let's jump over and see, that we've got a lot of our information prepared here. And I am in the wrong project. That is why things were not working. Pay attention, Sean. But it's the same process that I've gone through. I start out with that the model builder data from Infoworks gives me a great place to jump off from. And then I come down here and I look at my design files, and now we'll see the correct corridor. There we go. Now, if it hangs up on me again, I'm just getting up and walking away. No, I'm teasing. Okay, so here, this is what I was expecting to see. Now you'll see that we've got these corridors that were just, basic information brought over from Infoworks, and we're going to start preparing that data to be leveraged inside our model coordination. So one of the things I just mentioned is that we want to jump over into Civil. Let's see if it's ready for us yet. Not quite. Give it just another second here. And again, that was my fault for pulling down too much information at the same time. I should have broken it up in smaller bites. And that's one thing. I'll take a slight tangent here. You'll notice that the file that's hanging up on us, some of these files, the MMS file that's being pulled down is 250 meg. My surface file is 33 meg. So while we're not working across BIM 360, we are working locally. We do have to wait for that information to be pulled down. And so I got a little overzealous and tried to pull everything at once just so I could have the ability to bounce back and forth inside our presentation. And I've got lots of mud on my face this morning, so please forgive me. But let's go ahead back into these drawings and look at the way that we've broken things out. One of the important things to understand is that when we're working with the model coordination tool is that we have to have our files broken up in some logical fashions. We have to have our surfaces separated, and in cases that we want to run clash on even the surfaces against each other, we would have to have those in separate files. And that's going to be a common theme here. All of the information that we want to clash, if we want to run clash detection on pipes, you'll see here that I've got my pipes broken out into my sanitary, my storm, and my water, because you have to have the information broken up into separate files. We've got another question here. Civil is part of BIM. Okay, yes, absolutely. So that's actually a good question. Maybe let's answer that one live. Is Civil part of BIM? There are tools inside of Civil 3D that allow us to function very successfully in the BIM environment. And there are also tools in BIM 360 that don't necessarily, or excuse me, in Civil 3D that don't necessarily qualify for a BIM environment. And one of those things, if you're working with some two-dimensional hatch patterns, you can get pseudo BIM with that information if we start attaching metadata to that file, but it's not a true BIM environment. Now, our pipe networks, our corridors, things like that are becoming much closer to what our Revit users are expecting when we say BIM. And remember, from the civil perspective, we really refer to BIM as building an information model. So the building becomes a verb. And if you take it to that basic level, we've been doing that since we were using DCA to build DTMs. Let me see if I can throw a few more acronyms out there for us today. So again, what you'll see here in my water drawing is that I've got my data shortcuts set up correctly because I'm using my Civil 3D drawings as I would any Civil 3D project. I'm doing my design just like I would normally, but I've actually got those files broken out logically, so I can come over here into my plans folders and start looking at some clash detection. Now, one of the things I ran into when I was setting up the data for us to work on today was that I was missing my model coordination icon. And so we have to actually make sure that this information is activated in our project before we can get that taken care of. And that's going to be taken care of by our project admins. So just a quick review on the management portion of BIM 360. There are some things that it does require your project administrator to set up for you, the individual surfaces that are activated in the project, and then giving the individual users rights to those individual services as well. You find all of that information under here, and you can see that we've actually got model coordination turned on, and I believe that's this icon right here. Now, one of the other questions that come up, since we've taken a little bit of a tangent on management activities, is that when you're creating permissions inside BIM 360 for your collaboration for civil users, they require the following permissions. So let me go into my permissions here. Where are my permissions here? Why can't I remember where my permissions are? Well, this is quite embarrassing. There we go. Sorry, I was clicking on the wrong icon. So what you'll see here, let me go ahead and, oh, that's a project administrator, so I can't change his permissions. Let's go ahead and add a user. Gonna find you, Michelle? No. There we go. And here's what we have to set. They need the view, download, upload, and edit. So almost full control, but not quite full control. So that means the users won't be able to manage any of the information that's inside the folder content. They won't be able to remove stuff that the administrator has set up, but they will be able to have control over the individual elements that are being created inside BIM 360 at this level. So this is the minimum requirement to be able to leverage collaboration for civil. Take a quick break here. Do we have any questions? Not yet. Okay, so let's jump over into the model coordination portion. And in order to save time, and I'm so glad I did this, we've already got the information uploaded. So let's go over and take a look at what has already been run for us in our clash detection tool. Here we go. Okay, so if we go over here, we see, let me take a step back. Here's the individual models that I've uploaded. And again, you'll see that I've done my water, my surface, my sanitary, my corridor, and my storm separately. And so we can go over and we can look at these individual files. Again, just like you can any file that's been uploaded into BIM 360. And we'll wait for that model to open for us. And let's go ahead and zoom in at the at this particular model. And what you'll see that I've done here, let me not step on my toes. This is the model that we've actually extracted the individual corridor elements as solids so we can run that clash detection inside model coordination. And so if we close this model down, we're going to jump over here into our clashes and take a peek at the individual clashes that we have. And so pretty quickly and easily, we've got the information that we need on whether or not our individual utilities are running into each other. Now, again, if you've built, and you likely would have built your existing utilities into networks, then you could leverage those here as well. And at some point in time, we probably could have a conversation about leveraging the GIS tools to help us build those three-dimensional existing pipe networks. And remember that when I use the term pipe network kind of generically. I think of, we can leverage Civil 3D gravity networks or Civil 3D pressure networks in a number of ways. And with the enhancements that were released with 2021, Civil 3D 2021, with pressure pipe networks, we can start having conversations about leveraging pressure pipe networks for some of our other utilities, our dry utilities, or even things like high pressure gas networks or just gas delivery networks. And so let's go ahead and let's pick an easy one here because we know that storm and sanitary are clashing because I did a lot of that on purpose. And so we'll go ahead and it's going to open up our model here and it's going to give us the ability to step through each of the clashes that it's identifying for us and what of those elements are clashing with the other objects. And then one of the things that we'll want to do here is we'll want to start adding my clash here. Where's my sanitary? Whoops. Sorry. Hope everybody didn't get too nauseous with my moving around here. Gosh darn it. Okay, let's just look at the individual clashes over here now that the objects are updated. Let's find the property that we want to clash. Come on. It's an object versus a layer. And let's see here, the corridor is clashing with 12 objects in the model. And these are the individual objects that it's clashing with. So let's zoom into one of these. Zoom in for me. There we go. And what that likely means is that our pipe, is up in our subbase. Now, one of the tricky things I'll let you know here is that obviously our structures are going to clash with our corridors because the structures are penetrating the corridors in most cases. So there's some things that we just kind of have to, remove here and make not an issue. But the other things that we'll run into, like you're seeing down here, if I can get this to zoom in for me, is that the pipe network was actually intentionally brought up into the subbase of the road to show that it was clashing and causing an issue. Let's see. Oh, I just got the web pages stalling. You know what? Let me go ahead and stop Civil 3D from doing its thing because that's not helping either. 2 seconds here. Pardon me, everyone. And we'll just open up that corridor by itself once this takes care of its process. There we go. Now, a little tip I want to share with you. As you're running into any deltas that you may experience leveraging BIM 360, one of the important things is to provide the correct information back to support. So inside your task manager, you can turn on PID. The PID number, in some cases you'll see here, is under Desktop Connector. One of these PID numbers is the object that could be spiking or causing the delay in the communication process. If you could just provide that additional extra information to the support team if you're running into any challenges or deltas, then that actually gives us the ability to do a little more digging, and it helps us identify the issue quicker. Like I said, there's a lot of activity that's going on behind the scenes when we're actually doing our processes here. So here we go. Let's get into our pipes. And there it is. So there's the pipe. And here's where the pipe is actually impacting the surface, or the corridor, excuse me. So we can see that this is the issue that we're identifying here. So we can come over here and we can make this an issue. It's gonna freeze on me, there we go. Oop. Sorry about that, I'm jumping around again. Hands off the keyboard. I've still got some processes running behind the scenes, so let me go ahead and clear all those actions. And get back over here we go. So we're opening the issue. The issue is based on the clash through this type of the setup, or that's the name that I've created in my model coordination, sorry. Oh, gotta pick a place for the pen, come on. Come on. Okay, 1 second here, my apologies. Looks like I've got a bit of a hiccup with my internet connection. I've hung up pretty good here. Maybe I have a pop behind or something. There we go, yep. One second here, sorry everyone. Any questions while we're waiting here? So the time, there we go, now we're back. The time that you want to use the individual solids would be with the Civil 3D corridor, so you can identify the individual elements that are being clashed. Unless I have overlooked an update, which is entirely possible with BIM 360 because that tool gets updated quite frequently. If I've missed an update, it's possible, but right now we're not able to clash with the individual corridor objects unless they are extracted as Civil 3D solids because of the way the corridor is created in a, pardon me, in a cross-sectional fashion. So model coordination doesn't see the individual corridors as solid objects unless you extract the objects. The pipe networks are, 1 second, pardon me. The pipe networks are clashed as the pipe network objects, and no additional effort is needed to applied to those. All you have to do is make sure they are in individual files. So we've created, go ahead.
Sorry about that. There are a couple questions regarding how robust of an internet connection do you need to run BIM 360 with Civil 3D?
If you're trying to present, I suggest very robust. No, I'm teasing. Generally, you know, what I was running with initially when I started working from home, I had, there was a Comcast, and I think it was the 300 megabit Comcast, which I think is fairly standard now. Wi-Fi is not a great idea. Now, let me preface or caveat everything I'm saying with that, you know, if you need to run BIM 360 on Wi-Fi, you can. You just have to set your expectations that it'll be a little bit slower than if you were hardwired to a network. So wherever possible, you know, obviously hardwired is better. I've moved up to a gigabit network, but I've also got 2 children upstairs streaming on both 2 devices each right now. So that, you know, is contributing to my slowdown. So it's definitely a relative hard to answer with a specific number scenario, but I would say that, you know, the 300 megabit network, if you're working from home, working by yourself on the network, then you should probably have a good experience. Unless you're running, you know, 50 miles of rail, then, you know, just be patient. But it'll load. I mean, things will work. Trust me. I've been doing it for quite a while now, even though Collaboration for Civil is not yet even a year old. I've seen the evolution of the tool in it. I'm nearly ready to say that it's ready for prime time, everyone. And, you know, any issues you do have, definitely bring to us, because the development team is listening. Okay, so I went ahead and created my issue here. Let me go back. Should be showing up in my drawings. Updated. That's the number. Oh, back over here. Nope. Sorry, wrong button. Come on. Did we successfully avoid that internet connection question, Michelle? So you should see, here we go. Inside the storm drawing here, we do now have an issue that we need to take care of. And let's go ahead into there. You should be able to click on the issue and open the drawing. Agreed, everyone? Oh, that's a great question. Let's go ahead and take a peek at that real quick. The question that I see right now on the screen, just to share with everybody. So here we go. This is where our issue was. And obviously I didn't set it in the correct place. I was getting a little click happy there. But this is the issue that we just created. Oh, that was one we created the other day. Oh, I selected the wrong one. Guess was it sanitary I was working in? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. The question is, so how are the working files working today? Local files working now. So one of the hiccups that we did have in the 1053 version, and if you're on 1053, please update as soon as possible. We've actually pulled that version down. So here's that issue that we were just talking about, was that we were trying to clean up your temp files. And when we cleaned up your temp files, we actually cleaned up your working files as well, just from the local copy. So that was a bit of a challenge for our customers, and it was quite frustrating. But right now, what's happening with your local files is you'll see with the updated version of Desktop Connector. Now, I'll lie, and I'm using a preview right now, doing some beta testing. But what we have is you'll see that the local files are stored here, and they are set up in 2 different scenarios. Primarily, you're either going to have your synced files or you're going to have your online files. But with one of the updates for Desktop Connector, we've given you the ability to go ahead and free up that space. And what that does is it just removes the cache from local, or removes those files that are synced and leaves them in BIM 360. So it keeps everything safe for you, but it does give you the option to clean it up. Now, the other thing I like to point out to customers, since we're doing a little bit of tech talk here, is our temp files. This is one of those files or folders on your local machine. Oh no, it's local temp, isn't it? It's local.temp. I can't ever remember that code. If somebody online remembers this one, let me know. But it's app data. Come on. My computer's not having everyone. Try that one more time.
William is suggesting %temp%.
Okay, so it wasn't, that was what I thought too, but it wasn't working for me. Oh, okay, there it was. It was just problems in the chair, not in the computer. We call those picnic errors. Here we go. So I go Shift or Control Alt and Delete. This is one of those areas where you're going to see files created quite rampantly in all products, not just BIM 360, but you will start to see some files that you'll get repeated in here. And let me see if I can find them before they get deleted. It's actually in our one directory here. There we go. So we're getting copies of those corridor drawings. This is the area that we're working on taking care of for you to get that cleaned up, but right now that's not happening. So let's just skip everything. So you do have to clean these up manually. And you'll notice that there's some things that it won't let me delete because the WebEx is using some of these files. Civil 3D is currently opening, still using some of this information. So it's just one of those things I like to point out. You kind of need to clean up your temp folder from time to time. Back over here into BIM 360. Again, we've looked at our issue here. We can add any additional information to it. We can respond to the issue if we like. And then we can also come over in these models as well and add some notes in here in our markup. Remember, if you want your markup to be seen by anyone else, it's got to be public. But then we can come over here and put some text inside our cloud and say, so we recognize the fact that we can't change the elevation of the information. So we're going to go ahead, or elevation of the, sorry, I read something and I said something and they both came out wrong. We cannot change the elevation of our pipe network here. So we just have to go ahead and up strength our pipe. And that'll be the response that we make to our issue. I'll save that markup. Okay.
We do have a question. Do you include Infoworks in your workflow?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would that user like to come offline and go a little deeper into that question?
Let's give it a try. So let me find him. All right, and I apologize if I say this wrong. Dagu Yamerem, are you able to unmute yourself?
So just to continue until we find out if the customer wants to unmute, I look at Infoworks as that tool that really gives us the ability to even prepare a proposal for a project. You know, I live here in Oregon and I know a lot of the engineers are using Infoworks for one of our local counties. It's almost expected information now inside your proposal. So not only does it do that, but it gives you the ability to even start laying out your project on day one. Once your client has signed the paperwork, you don't have to wait for survey. You don't have to wait for basic information. We can go ahead and start thinking about what the layouts look like. We can start looking at our alignment information. And because Civil 3D is so dynamic, we can start with the basics in Infoworks, move it over into Civil 3D, update it. And then with our 2021 update, we actually bring those full corridors back into Infoworks. And now not only are we starting our project in Infoworks, but we're telling our story about our project to our audience. The audience could be the general public with that Infoworks model, but now we're leveraging real world Civil 3D objects in that model.
And I do see Dagu, and I apologize. Can you please say your name for me?
Hello, it's Duigu.
Ah, thank you. I apologize for that. Yeah, so
No
do you want to
problem.
expand on your question a little bit?
Yeah, I'm on the architecture side, and I was kind of curious how civil engineers and architects will be utilizing Infoworks and include Infoworks their workflow.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of.
That's a wonderful question. And it's interesting you asked that question because as I was previously on the support team here at Autodesk, and on that support team, I was noticing that there were almost a 1-to-1 ratio for civil engineers and architects using Infoworks. Architects are a lot more comfortable in that 3D environment, I think, than civil engineers are traditionally, and are even a little more adventurous when it comes to new product or new software experimentation type things. So we've seen to where they've leveraged the tool really well, laying out parking lot designs, helping communicate some basic proposals or basic concepts to their to their audience. But even further than that is we've got a lot of analysis tools inside Infoworks that we can use that would definitely help architects. We've got the lighting analysis tools, we've got line of sight tools that we can help with. So there's, I would definitely say Infoworks is a tool that belongs in the architect's toolkit. Any other questions? So that was pretty much what I had prepared to show us today, was just jumping over, just a quick review here. You want to make sure that your model coordination is on, because that's actually what we're using to do our clash detection. Very similar to a process that you might use in Navisworks. And I believe we talked about the Navisworks workflow and a little bit of the collaboration for civil workflow back in the March timeframe. But you'll see here again that here's our individual views. Oh, we didn't set up any views yet, my apologies. But just to review again, here's the actual matrix showing where all of our clashes are located. And then we can actually just break that down to the things we care about. But again, what you'll see here is I can actually do my clash detection on my Revit model. And so where is the Revit model clashing with my pipe networks? And of course, as soon as I go off script, things seem to take a little bit longer than I had hoped. Okay, so where is our Revit model here? Here's our pipe. So it must be impacting that somewhere. Let's wait for it to load. Wait a minute. That does not look like my Revit model. Oh, I didn't select the Revit. So the Revit model is not actually clashing. Okay, I wasn't paying attention. Sorry, Michelle. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. How's that? Is that better?
You're talking. I don't read lips though.
Yes, you do. All right. So yeah, we do have a few more questions that have come in. New to using connector, but seems like I have issues syncing. So I don't know, William, do you want me to open up your line to see if we can answer that and maybe expand on your question a little bit? Let me find you in this thing here. So that's William Lucas. Are you able to speak to us? I think you're self-muted. Your line is open, William. Are you able to talk? Oh, maybe not. So maybe, Sean, if you want to just talk a little bit about, if they're having some issues syncing, maybe what are some of the things they might look at?
So if we're talking about what's going on between Civil 3D and BIM 360, that's definitely a question a lot of customers have, and it's a very fair question. There is a delta right now with BIM 360 and Civil Collaboration for Civil, where Desktop Connector is trying to update drawings that are referenced, data referenced or X referenced. Now, it's not causing a loss of data, because if the user has the file locked, that's where we see a failure. And from time to time, you will be using your corridor drawing. Your surveyor will be updating their existing drawing. When you save your corridor, it wants to update that existing drawing because it's got your surface from that existing drawing. When that happens, what you'll see in Desktop Connector is a failure. What I recommend doing is clearing that action, because what it'll do is it'll push it back to the end of the line. It'll let the other actions that are more important take place. And then it'll come back to that one, realizing that it doesn't necessarily need to happen. So that will actually go away, and it will not cause us any more trouble. The other thing is that if you do get into a scenario where a number of things are getting backed up or drawings are not saving for some reason, the spectrum towards it being product issue versus being drawing related has swung back towards the drawing related. So what I'll say is that it's very important that we make sure that we have all unnecessary references removed. Any references that are Nested references can contribute. That's getting better, but it still can contribute. So we want to pay attention to that. But it's one of those scenarios where if it's causing you too much pain, reach out to Autodesk. We've got the support system set up for you to help you out. Go ahead and reach out to us if you can provide that PID that's failing for us, or that's causing a significant amount of processor usage. That will help the end user. There's a couple tools that our support staff has to help dig into the brain of BIM 360 and Desktop Connector and help them identify the challenges that you may be running into. And then the last thing I'll say on that subject is that in Infoworks or Windows, sorry, let me spit out every product that I didn't want to say before I spit out the one I did want to say. We can go into our taskbar settings. And in our taskbar settings, we can select which icons appear on the taskbar. And you'll notice that I have Desktop Connector appearing at all times. And the reason I have Desktop Connector appearing at all times is because when that thing turns red, I want to know immediately. I don't want any guesses. I don't want any pop-up notifications. I want to be able to go down there and look at it and see that it's turned red. I also, when I close Civil 3D, like to make sure that it turns from green back to, or the green dot goes away, and that we see it's just the open white A again. And that means that, you know, all of my processes have been taken care of, and now I'm safe to go do whatever else I need to do. It's just a good activity to make sure things are finished processing.
Great. And Vivek asks the question, is laser scan data, can it be used to identify the clash process? So I'm guessing they're asking, you know, can you use laser scans to run a clash?
I want to say in Navis, I'm almost positive we can. I've not yet tried that in model coordination yet. That's a great question. I think we'll have to follow up with you on that one. It's a wonderful question.
Okay, and can you speak about the mobile capabilities? Do models and files continue to be available offline if users have synced recently? What functionality is or is not available in a disconnected state?
So if you are working offline, all of the files that you have synchronized will still be there available to you. And when you go back to the online environment, the processes that happen behind the scenes, a number of those processes that I was talking about, those start to kick back in, and they will go ahead and synchronize the information. So the process that I would probably recommend if you need to work offline might include coming over to your documents environment, go ahead and lock those files manually, jump over into Explorer like you saw me before, make sure that you've come in here and you've synchronized any of the data that you'd like to have. See if I can find it. I'm part of way too many hubs. You won't see this mess on your screen, I promise. Come over here and, you know, pick your design files. And let's see here. Do I want everything in here? I maybe do. You know, so then we just synchronize that data. So once you've locked it, synchronize it, jump to the work offline environment, take care of the activities you need to take care of. Now you won't have your alerts for updates from your work colleagues. So if you're working in the corridor drawing and somebody's changing your base map, you're not going to be notified until you go back online. And you wouldn't get notified in a timely manner when you did go back online. It would have to work through all of its processes for that to happen. But it's definitely a workflow that you can embrace.
Okay, looks like we have 1 minute left. Is adding markups or issues on the models on project files folder or in the plans folder any different?
I don't believe so, but they are attached to separate files. So if you look down here in my design files, I won't see that I've got the markup on that sanitary drawing. Unless it's going to make a liar out of me, yeah. I love it when the product pretends like I know what I'm talking about. It happens from time to time. But you'll see that this is actually a different file. If I come back up in here, you'll notice that there is the 3D extension added to these drawings. And so they are slightly different. And I would have to push these drawings back up. They're not going up like, you know, some of the Revit processes are a little more automated right now than the civil process. So we're playing catch up a little bit, and we'll get there sooner or later. But there are a few processes that our Revit users are accustomed to that are automated, and the civil users will still need to do manually.
Okay, great. Well, we are at time. What I would like to do, I'm going to put in the chat panel a link to the forums where we can continue this conversation. So go ahead and use that link to the forums. You'll receive that with the recording as well. If you'd like to ask additional questions, you can post them there. Otherwise, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Sean, thank you for a wonderful session, and Maisarwala and Adam Riley, I definitely want to thank you for joining and helping us with Q&A. So I look forward to seeing everyone next time let's see, we're already August. So yeah, in September, we'll be talking a little bit more about BIM Manager tasks. So thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.